All right, good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing today? So North Korea, it's a very depressing, very controversial subject. So I don't know, maybe the organizers saved the best or the worst for last. I don't know. My name is Henry Song, and I'm not supposed to be I was not the original speaker. The speaker that was supposed to be here is actually a friend of mine and a North Korean defector activist that I am working together with for information dissemination projects into North Korea. He was told the week before he was supposed to come by his security detail. Now, it's high-profile defectors in South Korea. They have 24-hour police protection, and they also get fed intelligence from the National Intelligence Service, which is basically the CIA of South Korea regarding North Korean threats to defectors and stuff. And he was told, please don't go to Mongolia. It's a safe country, but the capital city is filled with North Korean agents. And every time they have defectors coming to them, it's like a Christmas gift for them. So he was told, don't go. And he said, I'm totally fine. I'm fine with it. But his wife was freaking out. And so I told Ken, my friend can't come, so there's no use for me to come. I have nobody to interpret for. But Ken said, no, you must come. So I just want to thank not only Ken and Liberty International for their support, but also Silk Road Foundation, everybody that made it possible for me to come and speak on behalf of my friend, Mr. Park Young-ak, whose picture you'll see soon, and to talk about North Korea, which is constantly in the news these days, as we all know. This is my second time in Mongolia. First time was in 2015, winter of 2015, which was very cold. It was minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit when I was here. Very cold. I thought Virginia was cold, but I literally froze my butt off. I was here back then to rescue a North Korean defector that was trying to come through China to Mongolia, but he was actually arrested and he couldn't make it. And speaking of rescues and refugees and etc., I want to start off by first of all thanking Mongolia, the Mongolian people, the Mongolian government, because before the route was cut off by the Chinese government, many defectors, North Korean defectors, made their way through China, through the Gobi Desert, through Inner Mongolia, and they arrived in Mongolia to find their way to freedom to South Korea. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I'm not even a North Korean defector that made that journey, but so many North Korean defectors have expressed gratitude and appreciation to the Mongolian government for letting them safely come to Mongolia to be processed, to be resettled in freedom in South Korea. So as an activist, as a Korean American born in South Korea, thank you, Mongolia, for all that you've done. So. And so my first exposure or involvement with Liberty International was back in 2013 when I was invited to come to Lausanne, Switzerland to help another defector friend of mine and a great sponsor and friend whose name I can't mention because I believe this is being recorded and it will be made public. And this gentleman who's actually in this room, doesn't want his name mentioned, but thank you for inviting me and getting me involved with this movement and meeting the wonderful people back then. So it was really great to be here 6 years later. So what Mr. Park, my friend, would have talked about was his project right now of sending not only humanitarian aid, but also information, because as we all know, North Korea is the most closed-off society in the entire universe. The government controls everything. No freedom to listen to outside radio, no freedom in television or movies, no internet. The government controls everything. So what Mr. Park is doing through this project is using plastic water bottles, recycled water bottles. I mean, the water bottles that have been washed and cleaned from the recycling centers in Seoul, filled with rice. And not only rice, but we put in USBs, flash drives filled with South Korean dramas, K-pop music, Hollywood films, documentaries, and we send them into North Korea via the ocean from the west coast of South Korea as close as possible to North Korea. And so there have been many defector activists and NGOs that have sent information into North Korea that's still ongoing. For example, many defector groups, they use shortwave radio broadcasting. Some groups, they use balloons that are launched from North Korea that go over to North Korea and release bags full of leaflets and other goods. And there is still, cross-border trading and smuggling going on between China and North Korea border. And I guess the newest way that defectors are using to send information to North Korea is via the ocean using plastic water bottles. And so this has been going on for about the past 2 years. And Mr. Park and his organization, which I'm helping from the US in terms of promotion and fundraising, he does this every 2 weeks. And the South Korean meteorological organization or the government agency, they have down to the minute the information on tidal waves and tides and going in and out of the particular area from this island that we launch the bottles from. So all the bottles go into North Korea. They're picked up by either North Korean civilian fishermen or by North Korean sailors in the North Korean Navy. They're all hungry, so they pick it up. And we've had confirmation from the South Korean Marine Corps officers and the South Korean Coast Guard that patrol the area in the Yellow Sea that all the bottles get picked up. And what's more important is that we haven't had any single complaint from South Korean local villagers or
residents that the bottles have come back to South Korea. So that's another proof that these bottles are picked up. Now, if we had more funding, we would actually buy GPS chips and attach it to the water bottles and actually track how these bottles are moved up into North Korea and picked up. So that's the project that Mr. Park is doing. And now, the Kuen is actually the name of after-school program for North Korean defector students that Mr. Park runs in downtown Seoul. And Kuen literally means big pond or large pond. And the deeper meaning to that is, big pond of hope for the North Korean defector students. So in addition to running this after-school program for the defector children, he has started this humanitarian aid and information dissemination project into North Korea. So if any one of you are in Seoul and you have time, maybe you're there for the summer, for the younger people who are maybe on break from college, and you want to teach English or teach any other subject matter to North Korean defector students who are struggling a lot of times in a very hyper-competitive South Korean educational system, Mr. Park would be more than happy to welcome you to his school and have you meet North Korean defector students. These are students kids who are born either in North Korea or in China or born in South Korea to North Korean defector parents. You can teach English, you could meet North Korean defectors, and also if you're in Seoul and the timing is right, you could join the rice bottle launch. And it's a really cathartic feeling to just chug the rice bottle filled with rice into the ocean and see it drift away into North Korea. And I'm going to show you a quick video of our activity regarding that. So that's the main topic that I want to talk about, the rice bottle project. And I would say that this is the only regular, twice a month, humanitarian aid directly to the people of North Korea without dealing with the North Korean regime. And we've all know what happened in the past during the famine period when Kim Jong-il, the current leader's father, was in power, when so much aid and assistance from abroad, when it was sent to North Korea, we all know now from defector testimonies and other evidence that the regime diverted everything and the people didn't get the food. But this project, it's directly done by the defector. Defector knows about his fellow people in North Korea. And so this is bypassing the regime and going directly to the people. So I'm just going to show the video real quick. And before I came to Mongolia last week, I was in Taiwan for another conference, and I stopped by Seoul. And the day I arrived, the timing was right where I was able to participate in a rice bottle launch. So let's see. That's Mr. Park. And that's his brother, older brother, Mr. Park Sang-hak, who does the balloon launches. And he's the #1 target of North Korean assassins. And he's the one that launches balloons into North Korea. Okay, why is this in slow-mo? Okay, never mind. All right. There is sound. So this is the hills you see over there, that's still South Korea, but off to the screen, like around here, is North Korea. So Sorry, this is in slow motion. I don't know why it's in slow motion. So that's the bottle filled with rice, USB. Sometimes we have Christian materials if churches support us. We're including feminine hygiene products as well. And we're also looking to including seeds so that when people pick it up in North Korea from the boats, they could use the seeds to plant, the lettuce or spinach or whatever. So, and as you can see, the current is moving from right to left, and that's flowing out to the Yellow Sea and going into North Korea. So. And these are the bottles filled with rice. And I think this is one lunch where the local Korean church sponsored the particular package of rice. So we included, Bibles taped to the bottles. We bring in the rice bottles in the sacks as close as possible to, to the shore, and then we launch it. And then this is another video, yeah. This was a launch during the winter time, so you can see like the frozen pieces of, ice. And I believe that is North Korea right there. And off to the side, there's some other mountains and hills that you can see that are part of North Korea. And there's more pictures of bottles. That's Mr. Park. That's me. This is and that's about 20, we got about 20 boxes of feminine hygiene products that I brought over from the US to South Korea. And you can imagine the immigration or the customs guy, why do you have so I had to explain everything to him. He's like, all right, you're doing a good job, now get going. So that was interesting. So that's USBs. Then that right there is the anti-parasite pill. Now, I don't know if you recall, about a year ago, there was a North Korean soldier that escaped through the DMZ, and he was found to have parasites in his stomach, which really shocked the world. Now, this is the frontline elite North Korean soldier posted to the DMZ, having parasites in his body. So you can imagine how much worse off, the farmer in some, the province away from Pyongyang, how much worse they are. So we're sending anti-parasite pills also, that we get from the local pharmaceutical companies for free. Whoops, that's not it, okay. All right, never mind, that's a totally different slide. So, speaking of North Korea, we all know about the human rights situation and the current, the political situation with the summits, the nuclear talks, et cetera. But, for me as an activist, I want to focus on the defectors, focus on the human rights situation, focusing on rescuing the refugees who are stuck in China, who are still facing repatriation by the Chinese government. And I know there are a lot of people, some people here from China, and the Chinese government's policy of forced repatriation is one that breaks up families, that not only hurts the North Korean defector women and their children, but also hurts the Han Chinese fathers who, oftentimes they bought the North Korean defector wives in these trafficking situations. But it's an overall policy that's really hurtful to everyone involved. And let's see. So you might be asking, so how can I get involved? Well, just as I shared, you could participate by teaching the students at the school. You could participate by actually joining in the rice bottle launch. And also you could participate by collecting USBs or donating USBs, or making donations so that we can buy USBs to send into North Korea. And North Korea is the very opposite of what libertarian stand for. There's no freedom. Government has a control in everything. But I want to encourage all of you as we close out the conference this year. Let's work together so that we can make North Korea free, and that perhaps one day, someday soon, we could have a Liberty International Conference in a free and democratic North Korea in Pyongyang. And thank you. And again, really want to stress this rice bottle launch, anyone can participate, and Mr. Park will be more than happy to have anyone join the launch. And I realized that the North Korean embassy here in Ulaanbaatar is about a 15-minute walk from here, and I'm going to go and do a little protest. So I probably won't get invited to a conference yet, but if anybody wants to join me, please come with me during maybe lunchtime, and I'm just going to go, put up some flyers. There's a police station right next to the gate to the embassy, so if they come out and start arresting me, that's not good. But if anybody wants to join me, please. I actually need somebody to join me because my phone doesn't have enough memory space to take pictures. So I need somebody to take pictures of me actually posting stuff, or maybe you want to join me in holding up signs and stuff. So thank you, and I close out any talk or event with the shout or proclamation that all the defectors shout out, which is Free North Korea. So let's all do this. Let's all raise our fist and shout out Free North Korea. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Free North Korea! Thank you. We'll take questions now. I'm very active on Facebook because I have no life, so you can contact me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
My question for you is about delivering of information. It just occurs to me that like a USB, if you don't have a computer, right, you can't read it.
Right.
So that's the first one is like how prevalent is it to be able to access the USBs in North Korea? And then my second question is what's the level of literacy in terms of their ability to read books and stuff? Does the stuff really have to be delivered in like a video or audio form?
So in North Korea, people now have access to smartphones and tablets. These are ones actually made by the regime and distributed by the regime, and these don't have like the micro SD ports and the USB ports. But a lot of Chinese-made tablets and smartphones have been smuggled into North Korea, so they can access the SD card ports and USB dongles that they can connect the USBs to. Now, and some people, they have access to laptops and computers as well. Now, another device that's very ubiquitous in North Korea is what's called a Note-tel, which is basically a Chinese media platform. It's basically a portable DVD player, and these portable DVD players have USB ports, so they can stick the USBs. And I wish I could have brought the actual thing with me, but so basically the people have access to this, so they could watch the outside content on the USBs or SD cards through these devices. In terms of the literacy, I think there's what was so. In terms of the content, the North Korean people, they like not only action movies, South Korean dramas, but especially South Korean dramas or anything that's not made in North Korea. When they see, for example, a particular scene of a Korean drama, South Korean drama, where characters are sitting in a cafe, for example, and they see what's around these characters in that particular scene, and they realize, wow, the South Korean people are so well off compared to how we're living. And in terms of the reading materials or the things that we send in terms of the Bible is printed in, or it's actually published in North Korean language, which is sort of different from the South Korean language. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but whatever we send in, we put subtitles if it's a Hollywood film or foreign film. And in terms of South Korean drama, South Korean movie, they understand because they're hearing Korean. Now, maybe a little bit different from North Korean that they speak, but they understand what's being spoken in these South Korean dramas and films.
I'm thinking about Ayn Rand's Anthem as a piece of material to send in. Do you think, I don't even know.
Yeah, I believe her books have been translated to Korean. So, again, it's all a matter of funding, just like any NGO or nonprofit organization. If we had money, we could hire people to, put those things on USBs and send them into North Korea. I think it would be great to have an underground group of libertarians in North Korea. That would be a great project to launch, which would be great. Yes, sir.
I was really amazed by seeing all these Korean restaurants in this town. But what would happen if if Donald Trump just said, okay, all the troops in the DMZ are going home, and the American military just totally pulled out of there because the war is never officially ended. There's no treaty. What do you think would happen?
If that happened, all the pro-North Korean leftists in South Korea would be ecstatic, and Kim Jong-un would probably invade South Korea, and it would be war all over again. And I'm not a policy expert or an academic in terms of that question, but I think we all know the reason why for the past 60, 70 years North Korea has not invaded South Korea is because of the U.S. forces that are stationed in South Korea. And if they're gone, everyone knows that nothing will stop the North Koreans from attacking South Korea. So my personal opinion, just as an activist and as a Korean American, with family and friends living in South Korea, the U.S. should remain in South Korea. That may not be popular with some people, but yeah. Yes, sir.
Henry, I have two questions for you. The first question is, how much time you think it takes for the regime to collapse? The second question is, has your estimate changed the last 10 years?
So in terms of how long it will take, the former North Korean diplomat who escaped from the London North Korean embassy, Tae Young-ho, he spoke at the Oslo Freedom Forum a couple of weeks ago, and he said it would take about 20 years for the regime to collapse. And many defectors were like, well, that's too long. Some defectors say maybe 5 years, 10 years. I really can't or don't want to put a figure to it, but I think personally 20 years is too long. The way the regime is going, it can't last 2 decades. I think perhaps 10 to 15 years, something drastic may happen in North Korea. Now, the North Korea of today is definitely not the North Korea of 5 years ago or 10 years ago or definitely 15, 20 years ago. You had with the death of Kim Jong-il in 2011 and his son coming to power, no other country, you have 3 generations of hereditary dictatorship coming to power. And, with the public distribution system breaking down, people relying on the markets, and the markets acting as a sort of an underground economy that's propping up the North Korean economy and allowing the people to survive, and also acting as a conduit for information to spread around the country. You did not see that in North Korea 10, 15, 20 years ago. So definitely things are changing. Yes, the regime still has a grip on the people. Yes, the regime is still, murderous dictatorship with, 200,000 people in political prison camps and all these horrible things. But change is happening, and I believe change will continue to happen. And that can only be aided with more information going into North Korea, whether that's by shortwave radio or leaflets or USBs, smuggling through doing smuggling work through the China-North Korea border. And we also have to realize that there are 35,000 North Korean defectors that have resettled in South Korea, 218 in the US, there's a whole bunch in Europe. And these defectors are the ones who are able to maintain contact with their family members and relatives in North Korea using brokers, using smartphones, and the Chinese cell phone network along the border area. So they can get information about North Korea that sometimes the media outlets can't or won't report on. So I don't know if that answers your question, sir. Yes, Ken. Yeah.
Henry, I have a great admiration for your courage and dedication to this. 2 questions. One, what has driven you for all these years to be so devoted to this cause? And number 2, what's your thought about the effectiveness of sanctions? Is it helpful or hurtful to people of North Korea?
The first question, I think because because I'm still single and not married, I think I have the ability to dedicate my life to this, but that was sort of a joke. But on a deeper level, just as a Korean American, even though I was born in South Korea, I lived most of my life in the U.S., and also as a Christian, what's happening in North Korea, when you think about it, you cannot help but just, shake your head and just, this is an industrialized nation where people starve to death. That has never happened before, only in North Korea. And you have, because of what happened, hundreds of thousands of North Koreans escaping North Korea into China, where they face, even more human rights violations, especially the North Korean women. And the fact that in the 21st century, you have a society and a country and a nation where, the leaders worshipped as a god, even though that's kind of fraying now under Kim Jong-un. How can I not take action, especially as a Korean American, as somebody with with my parents still having long distant relatives still in North Korea. So for me, that's I guess the short answer to your question why I'm involved with this, because I want to see change happen in North Korea. And I thank God every day that I'm not born in North Korea, and all the Mongolians should be thankful that you guys are not born in North Korea, but live in Mongolia. And all the others from other countries should be thankful that you're not living in North Korea. And why is it that North Koreans have to suffer like that? So we should all work together to, make the North Korean people be free and enjoy all the freedoms that we have also. In terms of the second question, that's a very important question that gets asked a lot. And again, as an activist, my answer may be simple or simplistic. I think sanctions are effective because it affects the Kim Jong-un regime. Of course, there are many other scholars and academics that disagree with me. They would say that sanctions only hurt the people and it doesn't affect the regime. But I've seen evidence that it would be beneficial to continue the sanctions regime. The thing is, the Chinese government, they bypassed all the agreements that they've had in terms of enforcing the regime, and they're still conducting, a lot of, illicit trade with North Korea. So I think that's what's propping up the regime. And what I hear from the defectors is that the North Korean defectors say that the sanctions must be enforced, and not only enforced, but increased and continue, because if the sanctions are stopped, that would only give more life to the North Korean regime. So that's my answer.
Okay. I know of, in the past, a lot of North Korean parents will cross the river to China and drop off their baby or children, and then they return back home, just hoping that their children will get some better life or get adopted by Chinese families. Is it still going on?
That may be happening. I'm not quite sure if that has happened in recent years, but I do know of a really wonderful American couple that adopted, I think, 3 or 4 children from China. And she said that one of the children that she adopted, the agency told her that she was found near the North Korea-China border. And they are not 100% sure whether this baby, when they found her, is Chinese or North Korean. So she still has no clear information whether her adopted child is Chinese or North Korean. That may continue to happen. We just may not know about it. But right now, the China-North Korea border, it's really hard for North Koreans to cross either the Yalu River or the Tumen River to China, because obviously on the Chinese side, there's the danger of the brokers and the human traffickers and the Chinese border security, but also on the North Korean side, Kim Jong-un has really increased and really cracked down on the border crossings. So even for missionaries and rescuers and people like that involved with that kind of work, rescuing people out of China is still relatively easy and inexpensive. But now the cost to bring somebody out of North Korea has jumped to like $15,000, $20,000 per person. And that, most of it involves bribes and all that stuff. Whereas, just 5-10 years ago, it was drastically less than $15,000, $20,000. So the border area is a really dangerous place for North Koreans to cross.
When do you leave for the embassy?
After my speech, I guess. But I want to hear the next speaker. So maybe during lunchtime, I'll go. So, yeah. Again, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or get the Mongolian host in trouble, but I was just going to go on my own, but I just need somebody to take pictures of me because my phone doesn't have any. Sorry.
일주세 대왕들 몽탱이 일주세 대왕들 아빠도 자시고 살다들 그 조로가를 적승 çıxсан데 таны бол тоон шүү төвчөөс одоо бид нар бас очоод тэр торгох тэр үйл явц тэр шүү болдог. Тэгэхээр бас тэр бас Монголд нөгөө чигсаа цагдаа хийхэд бас нэг тийм үйл явдал болдог шүү гэж бас санал байна. Тэр хүмүүс мэдээлэл өгөхөд яг энэ замын эсрэг талд хойд солонгосын маш том ресторан байгаа. Exit Plaza-г өмнөх бол тэнд хойд солонгосчууд өөрсдөө ажилладаг. Олсон мөнгөө төлөө өгдөг. Тэгэхээр бас яг маш ойрхон хойд солонгосын ресторан 무슨 메이트
Just piece of information he wants to give. As you've noticed right here, in front of the Korean embassy, there is a police, and according to Mongolian laws, it might be that you'll have to pay a penalty, because according to Mongolian law, you have to get first in advance permission to have a protest and stuff. So there might be some penalties involved, and if there are penalties, there might be issue with the administrative court, but just saying it might be, the penalties might be involved. The other thing that we pointed out, just to the north of this hotel, there is a North Korean restaurant. There are actually North Koreans working at that restaurant, and they are sending back their money back to Korean government. I just wanted to give this information.
Thank you for the information. So maybe I could just walk past the embassy and hold up the sign, and then somebody can take a picture. I'll keep on walking. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Regarding the restaurant, what's interesting is that 4 years ago, 4 years ago when I was here in Mongolia, I went to like the monastery like outside of Ulaanbaatar, which is a major tourist attraction. And when I was there was actually a group of North Korean textile factory workers. These are not defectors or refugees. These are actual workers sent by the regime. It was their one day off, and they were actually in the park, in the monastery park, walking around. So I approached them, and I spoke to them in Korean. Hello, how are you? And the moment I spoke, they obviously knew I was not from North Korea from my Korean-American Korean accent. So that's very interesting. But I've heard that most of the textile factory workers have been sent back, but the restaurant is still here. So you're right. All the money that they earn is sent to the regime, and Kim Jong-un is getting fatter and fatter, and all the workers are working hard, and it's a tragedy all around. So I think Mongolia, in due time, I'm sure they'll see that it's best to close all the enterprises and the restaurants that the regime operates. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Henry.
Just one quick, as a non-professional amateur interpreter that has interpreted for defectors at so many events, let's give a round of applause to interpreters in the back.